Was to create a celebration of the music that the artists themselves would participate in creating. Beyond that, we live in a world where people are afraid, where people are paranoid. There's been a great deal that's positive that's come out of it, and a fantastic amount of energy that has been created by the people who've been involved in it. We will take X number of motions on the floor and limiting the discussion to the see this get on and to realize its importance. We also felt that a great deal of the good things that have come out of the artistic community of this country have originated in San Francisco. That is a starting point. That may sound chauvinistic, but I also think it's the truth. People talked about an earthquake in San Francisco for '69, and we wanted to have one. We wanted to have one that would bring about a tidal wave that would sweep across the country, and maybe next year every community would be putting on festivals that would be created by the artist for the people in the community. A lot of great, grand, beautiful ideas for that festival. We've also created a lot of dissension, evidently, and that's been brought about because we made mistakes. People make mistakes. We were doing something that nobody's ever done before, and when you do that, you don't have any rules to follow. You don't have any guidelines. You go ahead and do it, and you find out about your mistakes as you go along. Understand the motivations of people who want to bring about a halt to the getting together of their brothers in a celebration. I want to know who sent them or who set them up. A lot of commercial festivals going on throughout the country that have turned into bummers for everybody involved. I'd say the one down south that was held that they called the Newport Festival is a splendid example of it. It was a $7 admission charge. You sat in the dust and you couldn't hear what was going on. We also felt that musicians are more intelligent people than they are generally handled, that they are capable of putting a thing on themselves. And the biggest thing we wanted to, we did not at that time discuss formally taking the San Francisco Music Council or the people who were at that meeting much beyond first trying to get a festival on. Among us, we do have a lot of dreams and a lot of ideas of what a music festival could initiate in this town. The idea that maybe you could have a performing arts center in this community where musicians could practice. Of Kezar Stadium, though we do not now have a contract on that. And the sum that we were to pay for the use of Kezar was to be $12,000 for the 3 nights. The park has told us that as we wish to use each other area in the park, they wanted us to apply for it one by one, as I understand it. Is that proper?
It's proper, except that they have reserved the 3 biggest areas for us.
Right, the 3 major areas have been reserved. Now, what we were trying to establish in the park were approximately 8 staging areas that over the 3 days would put on approximately 240 rich people in the community and say, come up with the bread. Because we believe that people could do things at a people level and at an artistic level at the same time. Now, since the time all of that has begun, we've created the council members who were on it failed because we didn't give it all the direction we should have. That in part was because we were trying to let people do it themselves. We felt that was the best thing. We found out in the end that sometimes more direction is better. So many people have gone to the mayor with complaints about the festival from various areas that he has a reluctance that I would call pretty natural to sit down with us. The first problem we had was with the musicians union that we had to go to because we knew that the musicians, number one, wanted to play free. And that's an important part of this. The musicians and the other artists were contributing their services free to this festival, as are the members of the council. The musicians union was first approached, I guess it's now just about a month ago, and we were told that the people who were there that day, it was Ron Pulte and Margaret Fabrizio, a harpsichordist who plays with the symphony, that they would be seen that day, and finally the musicians came out and said no, they were too busy, come back the next week. And they came back the next week and laid their story out of what they wanted to do. The immediate protest that came from the musicians' union was that they didn't want non-union musicians playing with union musicians. This is a basic of their union that they think we're trying to organize to achieve something. Last night, that they had invited representatives of, or a representative that's been in operation themselves as leaders of the hip community. The meeting was run by a man named John, whose last name I don't know. I've never seen him before. Now, in the 2 or 2.5 years that I was involved with the so-called underground radio scene in this town, I talked to a whole lot of street people because that's where they came when they needed something to get on the air to tell people about. And I think I know an awful lot of them, and I want to tell you something. I didn't see them there last night. I think there were a lot of people there last night who were representative of a good element in the community. I think they're people who have positive ideas about how the world has been changed. And I think that they're being herded along in a meeting that was about as fascistic in its nature as anything I've ever been to, and as totally rigged as some of those old union meetings I'd seen happen. John stood up and said that the very first last night who were literally afraid to speak up because of the way the meeting was being run, on the basis of that while making them sensitive, it has also brought about a kind of paranoia and suspicion of their brother that is going to stop their attempts to change the world, not enhance them. I find it difficult to... Let's talk about what we want to do in a positive way as far as changing this festival is concerned and making it work. I think there's two underlying suspicions that we've had to deal with for the most part, and that is areas of the community that felt that they were not being given representation, that the council immediately be expanded to include representatives from the rock musicians, the classical musicians, the dance people, the light shows, the graphics people, the ecologists, the Panthers, the Third World, the Mission Rebels, the Neighborhood Arts Commission, a representative from the working staff, a representative from the Musicians Union, the Park Department, the Switchboard, and the Haight-Ashbury Medical Clinic. Now, that would give a council of approximately 24 members, and I think it would be representative of a large part of the community. If there are other areas of the community that feel that they should have representation on that council, I think they should come forward and be heard from. The expanded council, for instance, that the mayor's office and the park commission could say to us, go ahead and use the park. We want to work, we don't want the park torn up, and hell, we don't want to tear it up. But let's use the park and let's use it to its fullest. Let's have a total facility available to us. I mean, we've been catching a lot of pressure in or the Park and Recreation Commission has from the people of the Flower Festival, because it's going on that same weekend. Hey, we don't want to mess up their flower festival. We only pick their flowers. We might like to go in and look at them, and maybe give them an opportunity to have a lot more people be aware of that flower festival than have been before. I think that any of these things can be accomplished if the city wants to accomplish them, and that's the question we're asking.
You expect thousands of people to arrive. Plans to do. There has been a lot of unnecessary and very unwarranted paranoia on the behalf of many people who, for some reason or another, just couldn't come up with a better mousetrap like the Wild West did. I think that this idea and this projection is to be saluted, because San Francisco, for all it claims to be, the city of love, Athens of...
Yeah.
I think